What is up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the ASAP Sports Minute with J-Mac and Ace. J-Mac, how you doing tonight?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad.
All right, go ahead. All
I
right,
was just saying, raining a little bit, but we're good.
All right, so before we get started, I just want to let you all know that tonight's show is brought to you in part by Suzanne Paparazzi Jewelry. All objects are lead and nickel free. We actually have a special, I would say we have a special offer for all ASAP Sports viewers tonight that you get, and when you spend $5, you get matching earrings to go with that. And so you can find it at paparazziaccessories.com, and the code on that is 160920. All right, so the first thing that we're going to talk about tonight is college football. And I'll tell you what, tonight there was some games, there was some upsets.
Yeah, there was. I think at one point, like number 3, 4, 6, and 8 were all losing at some point today.
So number 3, which is Oklahoma, actually lost. Number 6, LSU, they lost. But when it came to Oklahoma was able to pull off the victory. So
yeah.
We'll actually start from number 1, which the number 1 ranked team right now in the nation is Clemson, but Clemson was actually on a bye. So they kind of got a free pass, so obviously they're going to stay at number 1. And then we look at number 2, which was Alabama versus Missouri. Now this game pretty much just went final. Last time I looked, there was a minute left in the fourth quarter, and it was 38-13, and Alabama was winning. So pretty much what I do at this point in time, just so all of our viewers know, is we search through in what we call our game ball for the winning team. And so the winning team in this one was Alabama. So our game ball for Alabama actually goes to a Jalen Waddle, which had 8 catches for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. This one could have gone another way too. We could have given it to the quarterback Scott, but I felt like Waddle deserved it more in this game. He played a great game. Scott, the quarterback, played a great game too, but I think Waddle was just a little bit bigger of a factor.
Well, yeah, I think sometimes when, quarterbacks can always get all the credit. Like we were talking about that last night, actually, how the quarterbacks can always get all the credit. But sometimes, sometimes you also have to give credit where it's due. And if another guy has a good game, then it kind of has to go to him.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you on that, which brings us to the next game, which is Kansas State versus Oklahoma, which was number 3 Oklahoma in the nation. So what actually surprised me about this was, if you remember at the beginning of the season before it started, I said Oklahoma was in my top 4. And I said that they would be in the college football playoffs. After what I saw today, I'm not so sure, because Kansas State was able to pretty much move the ball at will whenever they wanted to. The biggest factor in this game that scares me about Oklahoma now is Oklahoma had 2 21-point leads in this game, and Kansas State came back on both of those leads. They had 2 21-point leads.
Yeah, that's definitely concerning for sure. You have a 21-point lead twice. You should not lose a game. That's not even a question. I don't even think that's something we should even talk about. Like, who would think that if you're up 21 points twice in a game that you're going to lose?
Yes, because Oklahoma was up. They were up 28-7 at one point, and then Kansas State was able to bring it to 28-14. And then Oklahoma scores again, and they go up 35-14. So then they're up 21 points again, and then here comes Kansas State right back again. And Kansas State finished off the game, and they ended up winning 38-35. And the guy who I gave the game ball to in this one, his name was Skylar Thompson. Now, Skylar Thompson, for some reason, whenever he plays Oklahoma, he always has a good game. Last year,
Right.
he played Oklahoma well too. He had 4 total touchdowns last year against Oklahoma and threw for, I think it was like 250 yards last year. This year he plays them, has 4 total touchdowns again, and he had 334 yards passing. He had a passing touchdowns, one passing touchdown, and then three rushing touchdowns in this game.
Yep.
So Skylar Thompson was all over this field.
For sure, no doubt, and it's something that again, you see it over and over sometimes, and it's hard to figure out why guys don't play well against one opponent, and then they play against another team, and you're like, oh, it's this team, I got it, I'm
Right.
on it today, and this is one of those guys. Like, he just plays well against Oklahoma, for whatever reason. I don't think anyone really knows.
So
But
because Kansas State was able to come back and beat Oklahoma, is this concerning to you if you are Oklahoma?
yes, for sure. How do you give up a 21-point lead, like you said again twice, and you don't even score again? Like that's
No, you don't.
that's the bigger thing for me. Like, you're up 21, you give up 24 unanswered points. Like, you can't even come back and score once after that. That's the more concerning thing than letting them come back by 21. Is you can't even score a touchdown to seal the game. When you've scored a bunch already, that's concerning for sure. So I have to tell you though, the funny story, just to throw a little funny thing in there for this show. We have a fellow analyst here on the network whose name is Nate, and we're all talking about this game, and we're texting back and forth, and Ace says, "Hey, and remind me of the team. I'm sorry. Yeah.
It was this game.
Kansas State just lost to Oklahoma, and he's
No. I said Oklahoma just lost to Kansas
yeah,
State.
you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah. So the other way, Oklahoma just lost to Kansas State. Well, how did they lose? And the answer was they scored more points. The other team scored more points than Oklahoma did. How else did you think they lost? So I don't know. It was kind of just a funny moment, kind of one of those things you had to be there, but it's just funny how it's like, yeah, they scored more points. That's why they won.
Right. No, that was pretty funny. That was the only reason I said it, just to be funny, because it's one of those things like, well, obviously that's how they won the game if you're asking.
Right.
So then moving away from that game, the next game we actually had the number 4 Georgia Bulldogs versus Arkansas. Now, if I remember at the beginning before we started, I thought you had Georgia at number 2.
I did.
Right? You had them finishing at number 2 in the country.
Yep. Now, keep in mind, that was before we knew the Big Ten was going to play.
And the Pac-12.
That was before we knew the Pac-12 was going to play. So I was trying to go off all the teams that were left, and that got shut out the window. But, hey, I am a man of honesty. I'm a man of integrity and morals. I'm going to tell you I said it. Doesn't matter the situation. I said it. So
no, which is completely fine, because if you look at this game, Georgia ended up winning 37-10. The problem was, what scared me was that first half. In that first half, Georgia wasn't doing anything. Going into halftime, that score was like 10-7 at halftime, or 10-6 actually, which was concerning to me. And I'm watching this going, wow, Georgia might lose too. So at one point, I thought the number 3 and the 4 and the 6, I thought at one point were all gonna lose, and I was like, that was concerning. But yeah. Georgia picked it up in the second half. So my game ball and this one actually went to Stetson Bennett. He threw for 211 yards and 2 touchdowns. In the end, when you can end up beating a team by 27, that's pretty good. Um, the turning point in that game was when Arkansas threw a pick six. That was pretty much the turning point in that game. Because when they threw the pick six, it was 17-10 at that time. Oh yeah. Yes, Robert Leader, you are correct. I knew it was 10-5 or 10-6, and yes, it was 10-5. I remember that because Georgia got a safety, and then right before half, they actually kicked a field goal. So yes, it was 10-5 at halftime. And so, with what you saw from Georgia today, do you still have Georgia as the number 2 team in the nation?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm a man of my word. I'm going to stick with it. I mean, I said it, and I'll stick with it. But I do think it's a little concerning, as if you go into a game against an Alabama, a Clemson. I don't know that they play Clemson this year, but you go into a game like that where you're not playing good in the first half, you're not going to win. So it's definitely going to be concerning at that point.
Keep in mind though, this is some of the team's very first games, so some of them are still getting in rhythm yet too. So that's another factor to keep in mind too.
Definitely.
So the next game we jump to is number 5 Florida versus Ole Miss. The final score was 51-35. The very beginning part of this game, yeah, it was a good game. Ole Miss was able to match Florida at the very beginning, point for point, and then towards the end, Florida started slowly pulling away. Yeah. The score looks a lot closer than what it actually was in the second half. Florida pretty much dominated in the second half. My game ball, huh? Go.
Right. No, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah. Okay. So, I actually had a co game ball in this one because I could not decide because Kyler Tassi, see, so Robert Leader, I was looking at the message he said.
Yeah.
When Georgia changed quarterbacks, they started doing something. They play Auburn next and Alabama after that. Okay.
So, I mean, yeah, it's going to be a tough go, like I said.
All right, so going back to this Florida versus Ole Miss game, I actually had Co in this one because of the simple fact that now Kyler Trask he threw for 416 yards and 6 touchdowns.
Right.
Now, people might look at that and be like, okay, shouldn't he just automatically get the game ball? No. And here's why. Because he was throwing to this bad man by the name of Kyle Pitts. And Kyle Pitts had 8 catches, 170 yards, and 4 touchdowns. 4 touchdowns as a wideout. So how can you not also give a game ball to him? Because he flat out balled.
He did.
So this Florida team, with as impressive as they look today, do you think they're going to be the team that jumps in the top 4 after that Oklahoma loss?
Yes. Yep. No doubt. Florida, I think they could jump as high as number 2.
Ooh, that's
yeah.
So you would have them leapfrogging Alabama?
Yeah.
Alabama did win though. Keep that in mind. I understand it was
bigger win for Florida. That's my only point. Like you look at the quality of the opponent.
And I get what you're saying there, but so what you're saying is that you feel like Ole Miss is a better team than Missouri is.
Oh yeah, by far. By far.
I would have right now, because I don't see them moving Alabama out of number 2. I just don't see it. So, if anything, Florida will probably... I could see them going to number 3. I don't think Georgia's going to move to number 3 because, yes, they won, but it wasn't one of those impressive victories. So, I don't see them... I don't see Georgia moving to number 3. I can actually see Florida going into number 3. And then, so after this week, I anticipate the top 4 being... Clemson, Alabama, and then Florida, and then number 4 staying at Georgia.
Well, it could go either way. Florida's going to be in the top 4. We know that. Would it be interesting though if having a bye week actually hurt Clemson this week?
I just don't see it though. I know where you're going with that because sometimes when teams are on a standstill, they kind of lose ground. But I don't see it because the most impressive team from pretty much 1 to 5 was Florida. They were by far the most impressive. But
Right.
I don't see them being able to jump up to number one.
I'm not saying number one, but I mean, I guess Alabama didn't have a great, a big quality win. So, but it's possible. Are we going to see it this year? That'll be an interesting thing to watch. See
All
if a
right.
bye week actually hurt someone.
So if we go to number 6 now, you have number 6 LSU versus Mississippi State. At the beginning when this started, I said that LSU was going to be in trouble. There was a lot of people that had LSU in the top 4. I said no way LSU was a top 4 team. When you look at who they lost on this LSU team, there's no way. And then they have Moore, which is probably the best wideout in the nation. He opts out. So you lose him. And then you lose a Joe Burrow and you lose a Justin Jefferson. It just goes on and on and on and on. You lose so many guys. How can your team still be the same that you were last year? I don't see it. And then this today proves to me that they're not the same team. They got beat by Mississippi State 44-34. Yes, it was a close game. They only lost by 10. But here's a very concerning stat. The player in the game was KJ Costello. The guy threw for 623 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Yep.
You allowed a quarterback to throw for 623 yards.
Which people today, anyone who's not, I would say, is not an everyday football watcher would probably think that 600 yards doesn't sound like a lot.
That's
let
a
me
lot.
let me just break that down for a minute. That's never been done in the NFL. The most in the NFL is 554. So, and only 8 quarterbacks all time have ever thrown for 500 yards in a professional game. So that's one. And two, in college, there's only been 4 guys to ever throw for 600 or more yards, and one of those was today. And 2 of those times was by a guy named David Klingler for Houston back in the 80s. So, again,
Right?
it's a pretty big feat to throw for 600 yards in a game.
623 yards. If you are LSU, this is concerning. This is already showing me you are not a top 4 team.
No, not at all.
I want to say top 10, but I am going to have to see more from this LSU team if they are going to be a top 10. And Robert Leader, I completely agree with you. He says that quarterback's arm is probably sore. And no,
Do you know how many times he threw the ball? I'm curious. How many attempts was that on? Did you catch that?
I want to say it was like 50. I think he threw like 50 sometimes. I think it was like 54, something like that.
That's crazy, though. You could throw the ball 50 sometimes and only throw for 200 yards. So the fact that he threw for 50 times and threw for 600 yards, that's just insane.
Right? 623 yards and 5 touchdowns. He did throw 2 picks. So when you look at that, somebody might be like, how can you give him a game ball? He threw 2 picks. Do you understand 623 yards and 5 touchdowns?
Yeah.
You don't see that. That is insane.
So here's what I'll say is sometimes people read too much into interceptions. And I don't mean that they're not a bad thing. That is not at all what I'm saying before we get this out of hand and Freddie comes on and does his thing. I'm not saying it's not sometimes a bad thing. But what I'm saying is that interceptions sometimes don't mean as much as people think they do. So if you're in the 4th quarter, you're winning by 17 points, your coach decides to throw the ball into the secondary and they pick it off. Did it really hurt your team if they didn't run it back for a touchdown? I mean, it's one of those that interceptions are going to happen sometimes. And sometimes they don't really hurt you or they're not as bad as people think they are.
Right. And they can kind of be fleeting when you think about it too. It can kind of be a fleeting thing because if you see a team that has that, let's say a team is at like a 3rd and 24, or a 3rd and 30, and the team's like, well, I don't want to give them great field position right now. So sometimes, well, what do you see? You see a coach who decides to be like, hey, let's call a passing play, we're going to throw it deep, and a quarterback, he throws it 50, 60 yards, and the pass is picked off. And that is because all they're doing is buying for field position at this point. So it's kind of a fleeting stat, like he threw a pick. Okay, but he gained 60 yards of field position because he launched it deep.
Right, right. I mean, especially if your punter's off, if your punter shanked his last kick, if you don't have a very good one, he kind of hasn't performed for the season. He's only averaging 38, 39 yards a kick, and you're at you like you said, you're at the 25-yard line, and you got a guy
Keep that sucker.
Yeah, you got a guy like Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, any of those guys that can just Josh Allen, any of those guys could throw the ball 70 yards. Just tell them, hey, go out there and throw it long, see what happens. And if they intercept it, you have them at the 10-yard line now, and your defense can go out and do something. So it's not always a terrible thing.
I completely agree with you. So then we go to number 7, which number 7 in the country was Notre Dame, and they were supposed to play Wake Forest. However, that game was postponed because some Notre Dame players actually tested positive for COVID. So that game was postponed. So now they're trying to investigate how that happened, and yeah. Right. So we won't go into detail on that. So then we go to number 8, Auburn versus Kentucky. Versus number 23, Kentucky. This game was actually a lot tighter than actually what I expected. This Kentucky team actually surprised me a little bit with how well they played. But the player of the game in this game actually goes to Bo Nix. When you look at Bo Nix, he threw for 233 yards and 3 touchdowns in the game. When you think about Auburn, what is one thing that you usually you're used to Auburn with? Like when somebody's like Auburn, do you think of offense or do you think of defense?
I think offense, and I think dual threat quarterback, usually with Auburn.
Yeah, because see, they had Newton, they had Statham. Yep. So the last several ones that they have been mobile quarterbacks.
Yep.
But this year, I think this Auburn team is more built on defense. Myself, let's see what Nate had to say. Most passing game in a college football game was by Patrick Mahomes, which was 719, and he lost that game. Yeah, yes. Which Nate, we're not saying it's never been done. We never said that.
I said it's been done 4 times.
Yeah, we just said it's only been done a few times, and it's not something you see a lot. And so when you hear the name Patrick Mahomes, obviously you're not shocked because of what he's done. But we're talking about a quarterback who everyone's like, who? Because if you don't watch college football, you don't really know a lot about KJ Costello. I'm just throwing that out there now.
Right.
All right. So then we go to number 9. Which was on a bye, which was Texas Longhorns. They're on a bye.
So we don't worry about them.
Yep, so we don't worry about them. Number 10, the game wasn't over yet, so I could not pick a game ball, but Texas A&M and Vanderbilt, they were locked in a battle. That was actually a really good game. Vanderbilt's playing a lot better in this game than what I expected. I expected Texas A&M to basically come in and basically mop the floor with Vanderbilt, because if you think about how Vanderbilt's been over the last several seasons, they have kind of been a doormat in college. Then we go to number 11, which is the University of North Carolina at number 11. They were also on a bye also. So we don't have to worry about them. Then we go to number 12, Miami versus Florida State. Miami was winning this game. Miami was winning this game by a lot.
Florida State's not what they were before. I mean, you could say who got the game ball, and that's really about all we'll talk about this game.
Well,
Because
no, I actually didn't give anybody a game ball yet because
yeah,
the game wasn't over.
right.
But Miami was basically mopping the floor
Yeah,
with Florida State.
Florida
Florida
State
State is not
isn't
the
what they
same
were.
anymore.
No.
Miami, actually, I'm kind of impressed with Miami this year. They're sitting at number 12. They're going. I have them projected to move into the top 10. I don't think they're going to ever be in the top 4, but this year they're definitely a top 10 team.
Definitely.
So then we go to UCF versus ECU.
All I could say is UCF is one of those teams that they're like, they're that small school that's always going to play good, but
Yeah,
they're never going to get a college football playoff
no, and
because they don't play anybody of significance. So
yeah, and so that's why I was actually talking with Big Shaw today, and I told him that the one thing that I hate in college football, and I'll tell you it now, the one thing that I absolutely hate is the way that the playoffs are done. That's just my honest opinion, because basically, if you're in a big time conference, you have a chance at making the playoffs if you can win in that conference. But
Yep.
if you're a smaller school like UCF, who all they do is win games, but they pretty much have no shot at making the playoffs, I think that's kind of crap myself.
yeah,
So when you look at the player of the game today, his name was Dylan Gabriel. He threw for 408 yards and 4 touchdowns. Dylan Gabriel is going to be a guy that people are going to know. He's going to grow and grow and grow and grow. People are going to get to know this guy. My surprise team this year, moving away from that game, is actually the number 14 Cincinnati. They play the number 22 Army. Cincinnati yet again won.
Last time that team was any relevance, by the way, they had a couple of players that maybe if you're an avid football fan, you've heard of. But the last time they were good, they had a quarterback named Tony Pike. And I believe their receiver was, I'm going to draw a blank, Marty Gilliard.
Cincinnati, and I'm calling it now. Cincinnati is going to finish. My prediction is that Cincinnati, for the first time in a long time, is going to finish as a top 10 team.
Wow. Okay.
I'm calling it now. They're a much improved team.
Okay.
All right. So the number 15 team, Oklahoma State, they played West Virginia. Last week, when Oklahoma State won, I said that the player of the game was Chuba Hubbard. Again, the game ball goes to Chuba Hubbard.
Yep.
Oklahoma State tends to lean on Chuba Hubbard. That's the one guy that they have. This week,
First round pick. Is he a sophomore?
later. He'll be a later first round pick. Yes, but he'll be a later first round pick. He's not going to be an early. He'll be a later. So with Chuba Hubbard, he had a good game. He had 101 yards and 1 score. He did run the ball 22 times, which you look at that, you're like, how's that great? It's not like overly impressive, but Oklahoma State tends to lean on Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State goes as Chuba Hubbard goes. And I love that name. It's great. Chuba Hubbard.
That's a great name.
I
Great
love
name.
that name. So number
Might be the best name since Kabir Gabaja-Biamila.
That was an awesome name too. So number 16, your Tennessee Volunteers versus South Carolina. This game was not finished yet. Tennessee was winning. Tennessee looked decent. So I did not give a game ball in this one yet. So I'm sorry everybody for the games that have not gone final. You can't hear who our game balls went to.
Right.
I'm sorry. All right. So number 17 is Memphis. They were on a bye, so we're not going to touch on them. We have number 18, BYU versus Troy. That BYU game started really late, so that game's still early yet. J-Mac, can you remember the last technically good quarterback that BYU had?
Oh boy.
He play. I'll give you a clue. He plays
Well-
right now for the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah,
Back up, and they use him everywhere.
I know. I was going there with Taysom Hill, but
Yes, it was Taysom Hill.
I knew Taysom Hill was there. I wasn't sure that's who you were talking about. I was going to go
Yes.
back as far as like Ty Detmer or, back in the '90s in the heyday.
Well, no, because BYU wasn't great when Taysom Hill was there, but he at least made him relevant. So that's why I said he was their last good quarterback that they actually had.
That makes
All right.
sense.
So so the score's actually 7-0 BYU right now.
Yep.
Okay. Number 19, and J-Mac, I know you want to hit on this game because this is LA Lafayette at number 19 versus Georgia Southern. And LA Lafayette ended up kicking a field goal and winning 20-18. This is
Take
probably
them out of the top 25. But come on, you beat
Really?
Georgia Southern by a field goal. You don't deserve to be in the top 25.
I know, but I wouldn't say you were high on this team last week, but you said it was by far the most impressive team. The most surprising team is what I should
Right.
say. Not impressive, the most surprising.
And that's only because they're from a small conference. They're a small school. That's all I was saying that. But they didn't show me that they deserved to be in the top 25 this week by beating Georgia Southern by a field goal.
Nope.
So,
and this
yeah, I mean, I'll take that. Last week I said it, and I meant it. I still mean it, that they've had a great year. Even if they lose all the rest of their games, they had a great year. They were in the top 25, but you don't deserve it anymore.
No, and their game ball went to Trey Regis, which had 15 carries for 52 yards and a touchdown. But he had 4 catches for 54 yards. So nothing too overly wow. But it's like you were saying, it's Georgia Southern. When you're in the top 25 and you're trying to stay in the top 25, you got to show something more than beating a Georgia Southern team by 2. By 2?
I agree.
It was 20-18, and they could have lost. Imagine if they would have missed the field goal. They would have lost to Georgia Southern.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So moving on to number 20, we had Virginia Tech versus North Carolina State. That game's still going, so obviously we don't have a game ball on that one yet. Virginia Tech is winning that game. So we go to number 21, Pitt versus number 24, Louisville. Man, Louisville is taking a nosedive.
Yep,
Louisville
they certainly
lost
have.
again. They lost again.
Mm-hmm.
23-20 to Pitt. Louisville is obviously not even close to what they were after Lamar Jackson left.
No, they're not.
I don't
So,
even
moving
know
on.
how anybody pegged them to be a top 10 team because I heard that, and I'm telling you, I heard that multiple times before the season started that Louisville was going to be a top 10 team. I don't know how. I honestly don't know how. They just lost to Pitt again. So 23-20, and the game ball went to Jordan Addison, which had 7 catches for 77 yards and a touchdown. So I don't know. I'm sorry. Louisville, your season's pretty much done. You're not a top 25 team. And then the 25th team was actually Marshall, and they were also on a bye week. So we don't have to touch on Marshall. But Marshall's 2-0. So with Marshall being on a bye week and the conference that they play on, does Marshall get dropped out of the top 25?
No, I think they'll stay there. I think they could stay. I think they could stay and still be in the top 25.
All right, so I told you who after today. I told you who I predicted was going to be the top 4. So who do you predict after this week is going to be in your top 4?
Alabama, Florida, Clemson, Georgia.
And you still have Clemson being at number 1, Alabama at number 2.
No, I think I Florida at 2. I said it. I'll stick by it. I whether it's going to happen or not is irrelevant, but I said it, so I'm not going to go back on that. So Clemson 1, Florida 2, Alabama 3, Georgia 4.
Wow. Okay. That's And I wouldn't really say that that's a bold statement because of how good Florida looked. I just don't think that they will leapfrog that much.
Right.
So, all right. So now how about we move on to a little NFL?
Sounds good.
Everybody's waiting for that NFL tomorrow. Today we did actually have our first positive COVID case. We actually had the rookie starting corner for the Atlanta Falcons who tested positive for COVID. It was our first case of it. Do you think that this is going to affect the NFL at all?
No, I don't think so. I think that I mean they only play once a week. It's going to be pretty easy to keep it under wraps, I think.
Yeah, because really, once they saw this, they like instantly put them in quarantine, and they said you're gonna stay there, you're staying in quarantine, and you're not coming out. The NFL is investigating a few teams though that allowed more people into their locker room and equipment room than they were supposed to. So the NFL is actually investigating that.
Yep, for sure.
And so Nate actually wanted to give us an update and actually say that BYU is actually now up 14-0. I'm not surprised. Okay. So now we can actually jump into the first game of the weekend, which is going to be the Chicago Bears against the Atlanta Falcons. The surprising Chicago Bears at 2-0 versus the 1-1 Atlanta Falcons, which we all know why the Atlanta Falcons lost last week. That game never, like, Atlanta never should have lost that game. If they dive on the ball on the onside kick, they win. Did I say 1-1? I'm sorry, they're not 1-1. I forgot that the Falcons actually lost in week 1 to the Seahawks, and they actually lost in week 2 against the Cowboys. I'm sorry. They are actually 0-2, and the Bears are 2-0. But the only difference in this one is that I understand that the Bears have a good defense. The Falcons have a really, really good offense. They haven't said yet whether Julio Jones was playing. He's still questionable. I think he'll end up being a game-time decision. The question is going to be, now we all know that the Chicago Bears have a strong defense. We know that. But even though they have a strong defense, this Falcons offense is really, really good. They're a scary offensive team. And if they are able to put up points against the Chicago defense, can the Chicago's offense actually be able to keep up with this Falcons team? I'm not so sure. When you look at the teams that Chicago has actually beaten, it wasn't really anybody impressive. They beat the Lions in week 1, which they actually should have lost, except DeAndre Swift drops a pretty much wide open ball thrown to him in the end zone with 3 seconds left, and he drops it. And if he catches that, Chicago loses that game. And then they almost lose to a Giants team that doesn't have Saquon. So, I don't know. So this Chicago team, to me, is kind of, I'm not really sure what to think about them. We all knew what they were going to be like on offense. But because they're playing this dangerous, because they're playing this dangerous Atlanta Falcons offense team, does Chicago have enough to be able to keep up with the Falcons? I would say no at this point in time. So I would actually take the Falcons in this game just based upon the Falcons can put up points, and I don't think the Bears have enough.
I think that's pretty accurate. I picked the Falcons.
Just based off pure offense, right? Because we know that the Falcons' defense is not good. Their defense is not good, but we all know that Mitchell Trubisky is the quarterback for the Chicago Bears. And I don't know if you remember what I sent out that somebody had said about Mitch Trubisky after the Bears started 2-0. And then the Packers started 2-0. They said, I don't know why the Packers fans are so excited because they beat the Vikings and Lions. They don't have a good quarterback. They don't have a defense. They don't have an offense. And the Bears have the best quarterback in the league, the best defense, and the best... What?
Yep.
So Yeah, you know that that's like a diehard Chicago fan when they're saying that. When your quarterback is Mitch Trubisky. Okay. So the next game we have is the LA Rams versus the Buffalo Bills. This might actually be a really good game.
It's a pretty good game, and I kind of
This one was tough. This one was really tough.
I gotta consult with my expert on this one. So let me bring that expert in real quick.
Who's this expert? And so Nate's saying that he also has Atlanta in this game too. Okay. I do think that one was going to be a close one. This one was really tough between this Rams and Bills. Right now, Josh Allen's playing really, really good. This Rams team, though, is actually kind of a surprising team because this Rams team, I didn't expect them to do what they're doing now. They get rid of a Brandon Cooks. They no longer have a Todd Gurley, which we know with when Todd Gurley was there, he had a difficult time staying healthy, and that was because of the tendonitis in his knee. He couldn't seem to stay healthy, so he would miss a lot of time because of that. Todd Gurley had that one really crazy year.
All right, here's my expert real quick. She wants to pick the Bills against the Rams. Which team? Buffalo Bills or Los Angeles Rams? Say it in the microphone so they can all hear you. What team?
What's it called again?
The Rams or the Bills?
Rams or the Bills?
Buffalo Rams.
Bills.
The Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills. Wow. You know,
I stay here. I might need your expert opinion still.
And so this one is something I don't even know. Like this is one that I was still contemplating on for a while. However, this one I will take the Bills in this one also. And actually, Robert Leader actually says that the Bills are his team too. And so he's got the Buffalo Bills also winning this game. So I will take the Bills, but it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a very close game. So, J-Mac, are you taking the Bills?
Yep, my expert says Bills, so we're going Bills.
Okay, so J-Mac is also going with the Bills in this game also.
I don't know anything if this is...
So, the next game we have is we actually have the Washington football team versus the Cleveland Browns. So the Washington football team is sitting at 1-1. The Cleveland Browns are sitting at 1-1. And so Nate,
you see on her bed that,
and I know Nate is trying to go back to that Buffalo game again because he's saying after what he saw on Josh Allen in week 2, that's why he would be taking the Buffalo Bills.
Because it's hanging from the
and Robert Leader saying that's his hometown. All right, so when it comes to Washington versus Cleveland, this one is kind of interesting. I don't trust Baker. Baker's just not my quarterback. The guy was supposed to be good, but this has to be his prove it year. He got outplayed by a rookie in Joe Burrow. He still has not been impressive. Washington's not. They have Haskins. I don't trust Haskins yet. He's still young. He's still developing. Washington definitely does not have a very good offense. Cleveland should have a good offense, but it's not there. Nate said that he's going with the Browns. Okay, which I can see where you're going with that, Nate. That's why the one reason I am taking the Browns in this game is because the Browns do have a little bit better offense, even though that defensive line for Washington is vicious. They are vicious with Chase Young and Montez Sweat and Kerrigan. They're vicious. They're young. They're hungry. But I will pick the Browns. And Robert Leader, that's kind of funny. He's saying that it's going to be a tie. So that one's kind of funny. All right. So J-Mac, Who was your pick in this one? Did you have Washington or Cleveland in this game?
Does it have a light?
So I picked the Browns week 1, I believe. I didn't pick them week 2, and so they have reversed on me as far as picking them and right. So I'm going to pick Washington, the Washington football team, because I think the Browns are going to win, if that makes any sense.
If that makes any sense. So you're willing to take a loss in this one?
I'm willing to take a loss just because when I vote the other way, it seems to go the other way. So
okay, all right. So I got Cleveland. You took Washington, and we have somebody who picked a tie, and then we have Nate who also takes the Browns. So the next game we have is actually Tennessee versus Minnesota. Minnesota has not looked good. Kirk Cousins, he's broke. Something is wrong with Kirk Cousins. He went 11 of 25 last week, 103 yards, 3 interceptions, and 0 touchdowns. 0. Kirk Cousins has looked awful. Kirk Cousins had a passer rating of 16 last week. 16!
yeah.
How can you trust this team right now?
We'll just say if anyone tuned into the show last night, that's something that we talked about was Kirk Cousins had those numbers. Pass rating is 16, and he's making almost $30 million a year. So anyone that's asking for more money than that deserves it.
Oh, definitely. Because Kirk Cousins has not been the guy like he was supposed to when he came to. You remember when he came to Minnesota and us NFC North fans, like with me being a diehard Packer fan, and then mess around Dave being a Chicago fan, and then I actually have a few family members who are Vikings fans. I don't really have any family members or know a lot of people who are Lions fans because they've been irrelevant for so long. But the problem is that Kirk Cousins is their quarterback. And when Kirk Cousins first signed with Minnesota, NFC teams were kind of scared because they knew how Kirk Cousins played in Washington when he was there, and he played with a lot of no-name guys and actually put up numbers. So I thought he was going to be good when he came to Minnesota, but he hasn't really shown that. So just because of that, I am going to take Tennessee in this game. Last week, Ryan Tannehill showed me something. I thought that they were going to have to rely on Derrick Henry, and they did not have to. Tannehill threw 4 touchdowns. He was impressive. Since he's come to Tennessee, he's got like 28 touchdowns, like 5 picks. So he's actually looked impressive since being the starter at Tennessee.
Well,
so
yeah,
this one I got Tennessee.
I'll just say sometimes it's coaching, sometimes it's a scheme, sometimes it's just the team, and a guy in the right place can always play good, and that goes to show it. I think it's going to be the same way with Brady in Tampa. He's not going to play as good as he did in New England.
He doesn't have Belichick.
He doesn't have Belichick. So, but Tannehill and Vrabel together has been a match made in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
So,
do you have Tennessee in this game?
Yeah, I think Tennessee's going to take it.
And now watch, since people are knocking on Cousins and everyone's taking the Titans, this is the game that Cousins is going to come out and throw for 4 touchdowns and 400 yards because people are knocking on Cousins.
I mean, it could happen, but I will say it's not as likely as last year just because he lost Stefon Diggs, and I think that it was a bigger impact than everyone thought it was going to be for him.
It is, because a lot of people were so high on Justin Jefferson, but the dude hasn't shown anything. He hasn't done virtually anything since being here. Now, of course, they have Thielen, which Thielen puts up numbers regardless. So, I don't know. Maybe this offense will get figured out. Maybe they won't.
Who knows?
All right, so the next game we have is the Las Vegas Raiders versus the New England Patriots. The 2-0 Las Vegas Raiders versus the 1-1 New England Patriots. Las Vegas is they've kind of looked impressive. Like they took it to New Orleans last week. This New England team in a way has kind of looked impressive. It definitely looks like a different Cam Newton, I'll tell you that. But you know why it's looked like a different Cam Newton is because he's with the guy named Bill Belichick, and Bill Belichick can pretty much make anybody look good.
Well, yeah, I mean, he went 11-5 with Matt Castle at quarterback. That should tell you everything you need to know.
And then when
You're
Tom Brady missed those 4 games, they went 3-1.
Yep.
With Jimmy G and a Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby Brissett, that was the bigger one.
Right.
Who, by the way, Belichick is a genius for making guys money because those two guys have made a hell of a lot of money for two guys that are really not good outside of New England.
So, hold on here. I have this very interesting comment from Nate on the side. Some of these comments are interesting, and this one's kind of interesting.
Hold on, while you're reading that, I just want to say something about this game we're talking about.
Go ahead.
The Raiders against the Patriots. Now, I pay attention to power rankings in many different platforms. I've seen the Patriots ranked as high as 7th in the league at 1-1. Ranked, and I've seen the Raiders ranked as low as 17th at 2-0. And I'm trying to figure this out. I'm like, how are you putting a 2-0 team at 17th and a 1-1 team at 7th? That makes no sense to me. So I think the Raiders are going to come out. Everyone is saying that they're not this good of a team. They're going to come out and destroy the Patriots.
They've definitely looked a lot better than New England has. They have looked better. So the comment from Nate that I was saying, it's kind of jumbled here because he starts with, I know a Lions fan, and then he jumps to and says, I kind of consider myself a Vikings fan because of genealogy. I like the Broncos better.
Is he trying to say he's like
so is he like saying that
Norse?
The Lions,
yeah, I don't know. Is he trying to say he's a Viking because his like great grandpappy was a Viking with a long beard and came from? I don't know what.
He kind of considers himself a Vikings fan. I don't know. So hopefully tomorrow morning when he comes on the pregame show with me tomorrow morning, he can clear this up a little bit more.
Yeah,
I will hit him back on that question and get him to clear it up tomorrow because I'm not sure what he's trying to say on that one. Okay,
that's kind of a crazy comment, but that's what Nate does. You know what? Nate does that for this network. I've never met a guy who will say something more insane than Nate. And I think sometimes he does it for ratings. And you know what, Nate?
That's why we love Nate.
If it's for ratings, keep doing it.
And that's why we love Nate. And I'll tell you what, that's why we love the guy. Because he is gutsy with some of his picks, and we like what he says. So, Nate, you keep it up, buddy, because that's why we love you. All right, so going back to that, what you were saying, I do have the Raiders in this game. I will take the Raiders. I think it'll be a good game, but Raiders are my pick. They're going to move to 3-0. All right. Now we go to the 49ers and the Giants. When we hit on this game, let's just say this. The 49ers, they are banged up. That is a team that is absolutely hurt right now. They're hurt on the offensive side. They're hurt on the defensive side. Jimmy G isn't playing. Raheem Mostert isn't playing. Tevin Coleman isn't playing. George Kittle isn't playing. And then on defense, they lost to Nick Bosa. He's out for the season. Solomon Thomas, he's out for the season. Richard Sherman is on IR. And so tomorrow you have Nick Mullins that's starting at quarterback, and then they have a running back by the name of Jeff Wilson Jr.
So let me
and a Drock McKinnon. I'm sorry, McKinnon will get the start, but Jeff Wilson Jr. is also there.
So let me just say this real quick. And Freddie, I hope you're listening. I hope you can hear this. You're probably not because you're probably watching your Lakers lose, but I'm also saying that I hope you're watching because I want you to hear this. You keep talking about Danny Dimes, and now he's going to be this great quarterback. Tomorrow, against what's effectively the second defense for the 49ers is his time to shine. And if he goes out and lays an egg tomorrow, the Giants' season is over because they're not going to beat another team if they can't beat a second defense for the 49ers.
Here's the thing, though. The only rebuttal that I want to make about what you just said on that, and I'm not taking anything away from what you just said, because basically, in most aspects of that, you are correct. But when you're looking also what Daniel Jones is also working with tomorrow, Sterling Shepard, he's hurt again. He's supposed to be their number one guy. Saquon, torn ACL, he's out. This Giants team was basically put on Saquon, and Golden Tate. I think he'll be playing tomorrow. They do have a Darius Slayton. They do have Evan Ingram. I get it, but I don't know. I just don't think he's working with a lot too. I honestly don't.
All I'd rebuttal with, Ace, is don't forget they did sign Devontae Freeman this week.
They did, but he's probably not going to be playing a lot because they just signed him. So he's still learning the playbook.
At least if he can get in 20, 25 plays on the day, I mean, he's at least going to be in there to give them, even nothing else, a decoy for someone else to get open. So they did get Devontae Freeman. That's all I can say. But I have the Giants. The Giants, you started 0-2. You want any shot at salvaging your season, you have to win this game.
This one for me was really, really hard because, like I said, I looked at both teams and I realized how banged up they kind of were, and I'm like, man, this one was going to be rough. But I'm kind of leaning towards the Giants on this one, and that's only because of how banged up the 49ers actually are. I really don't want to take the Giants because I don't trust a Daniel Jones yet, but yeah, but I will go ahead and I will say that I will take the Giants in this one. All right. So the next game we have the Cincinnati Bengals, the 0-2 Bengals versus the 0-2 Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles is one of those teams that is kind of one of the more disappointing teams so far this year. And week 1, you have a 17-0 lead against a Washington football team that pretty much nobody gave a chance to in the NFC East. And you let them show up and basically come back and win that game. And so with that one, it is oh man. This one, to me, if I had to go one way or another, it was going to be really, really tough because of the simple fact that the Eagles haven't been playing well, but I think they can be a good team. They have the potential to be a good team. But Joe Burrow has been playing really, really well. So I guess I'm just going to go ahead and call it now. And I'm going to say that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to get their first win. And Joe Burrow is going to get his first career win.
Joe Burrow leads the Bengals down the field. Minute and 31 seconds left. They get on to kick the field goal to win. They make it this time instead of missing it like in week 1. They get their first win. He gets his first career win. The Eagles fall to 0-3, and the Washington football team are in first place after week 3 at 2-1, on their way to winning the NFC East at 7-9.
So, because you had Washington beating Cleveland?
Yeah, I said that.
Oh, okay.
But I said that's because I thought Cleveland was going to win. But I'll stick with that. But if Washington surprises me and wins,
yeah,
just saying.
All right. So then we have the Houston Texans versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. We all know that this Pittsburgh Steelers defense is really good. They have a really good defense. Houston, they're 0-2, and everybody's giving Houston a hard time that they are 0-2. But the one thing I want to point out, does everybody realize that the Houston Texans in the first 2 weeks of the season has played the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens? How many teams right now would not be 0-2 going from Kansas City to Baltimore? there would not be too many teams right now that would not be sitting at 0-2.
Yeah, very few, that's for sure. So it's going to be a good game. Houston's going to pull it out.
You have Houston?
Yep.
So I've got I'm actually going to go with the Steelers in this one, and that's only because I think that the Steelers defense is better than Houston's, and Houston's not quite on track yet. They're not the same offensive team with they don't have DeAndre Hopkins, so they're definitely not the same offensive team. So I'll go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, so now we have the New York Jets versus the Indianapolis Colts.
Colts. Keep going. Colts. Move on.
You don't even want to hit on the game? Like,
I mean, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about the Jets being a mess. The fact that they got Adam Gase as a head coach. Who else was he going to go to? The Jets were the only place that was going to take him because he was so awful in Miami. It's the only other team that was going to give him a chance.
they only gave him a year in Miami.
The Jets are terrible. They're terrible.
Okay, but do you realize right now, and trust me, I don't.
You're going to talk about injuries again. Even with Le'Veon Bell on the field, they were awful.
I'm not even talking about with Le'Veon Bell. Their top two receivers are also hurt.
They're awful.
Perriman is hurt, and Jamison Crowder is hurt, and Le'Veon
wait.
Bell is out.
Wait.
They don't.
Crowder and Perriman? When
Yes.
those two guys are your top two receivers, you're already awful.
And trust me,
The Jets
and
are
I
awful.
don't. And trust me, I don't want to hype up Sam Darnold because we've been down this road before, and you know how I feel about Sam Darnold. We all know I don't think he's a very good quarterback. He's definitely not the franchise quarterback of the Jets. But I'm saying that they're not helping the cause by basically not giving him anybody on the team to throw to.
No, they're not. So they're not going to win. They might score 7 points. Colts win, blowout, 44-7. Moving on.
Yes, the Colts are going to win this game, but not by that much because the Colts also have Phillip Rivers, and I don't trust him.
No, 44-7. Colts. Moving on.
All right, Carolina Panthers versus the Chargers.
Chargers. Justin Herbert starts, throws for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns.
We all know that Christian McCaffrey's hurt on the Panthers. He basically was their offense. Like,
That's what.
when you have a Christian McCaffrey on Carolina, he opens up that passing game. They don't have him now, so now they're going to have to rely on a Mike Davis. So Mike Davis, we know a little bit about him, not much, because he had a little bit a little stint in Seattle, and then he went and played for Chicago. I guess you can call it. He played for him, but not really, because he only had a few things here and there. Nothing great.
Yep.
So-
Okay.
So I definitely
Chargers.
agree with you. I will take the Chargers. Okay. The next one we have the Bucks and the Broncos. The Broncos are also hurting too because Drew Lock is gone. He's out.
Here's
and Courtland
here's the
Sutton's
headline
out.
for this game. Here's the headline for this game. Jeff Driscoll against Tom Brady. Who do you think's going to win?
Tom Brady for sure.
Okay. Then Tom Brady, the Buccaneers win. Next.
Wow.
Well, these games in the end, it's just like, what do you expect to happen? Tom Brady against Jeff Driscoll, like that's it. That's all you have to talk about.
And trust
There's-
me, I know
Who
the
else
Bucks
for the
are going to have
Broncos
all
are you
their
going to talk
weapons
about? Are
back.
you going to talk about Philip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon? Well, they're not going to be able to run when they know they can't throw.
Philip
So-
Lindsay's hurt anyways. He's not even playing.
So, Nate, shut
Nate
up,
just said the
man.
Bucks by 3, but I'm sorry, Nate. I'm not a Bucks fan, but the Bucks are gonna win by more than 3. Jeff
They're gonna win by
Jeff
more than 3.
Driscoll, yeah, he played good last week, but we covered this before, and we
But
said,
again-
you know why he played good is because they were not expecting Jeff
There's no
Driscoll to
game
play
plan.
that game. They were preparing for Drew Lock, not a Jeff Driscoll.
And I'm sorry, but you give Bruce Arians an entire week to prepare against a guy. They're going to know how to beat him. So, it's over.
Bucks, yes.
It's over before it even starts. The Bucks are going to win.
I agree with you. Okay, the next game we have is the Lions versus the Cardinals. We have another
so
one.
again,
The Cardinals.
Another game. The Cardinals are going to win. Okay. DeAndre Hopkins going to go for something like 12 catches and 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. Okay. I don't know what to say about these games. This is ridiculous. The NFL scheduler, especially the Thursday night games. Don't even get me started on that rant. Okay.
So, do you realize like and actually virtually the last two games we touched on, those are the afternoon games. So
yeah, I know. So what do we watch tomorrow afternoon?
Well, actually, there is one more game in the afternoon, and then the last one in the afternoon is actually the Cowboys versus the Seahawks. And with the way that Russell Wilson is playing right now,
okay, that game's over too.
Offense,
the Seahawks are going to win that one. The
so,
Cowboys don't have a defense.
No, definitely not. And I completely agree with you. Seattle's going to win this game.
Seattle's going to win the game.
So we have the 3 games in the afternoon that are just complete garbage.
Garbage games.
Pretty much.
We'll just get hyped up for Sunday night. We're going to go Packers against New Orleans, against the Saints. We saw Breeze last week without Michael Thomas. He's not going to do any better. Packers are going to win this game 41-17.
Wow, so you actually have it as a blowout in this one.
I do.
Because
is Rodgers going to play good? Of course he's going to play good because there's no one to stop him. So he's going to come out and throw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns because there's nothing out there to stop him from doing it, even without Devontae Adams.
And Nate was trying to say he's going back to that Bucks and Broncos saying it's because Denver has home field advantage. And I'm like, what home field advantage right now?
Nate, yes. Let's just go back to it for a quick second. Tom Brady has a losing record in Denver. He's 4-7. Okay, but those numbers, I wouldn't say they're tainted, but that was also when Peyton Manning was there for 5 years. So he's going to lose some games when Peyton Manning's playing there. Mm-hmm. So your point is irrelevant, and it doesn't matter.
Jeff Driscoll's not Peyton Manning.
He's not. So we're talking about the Packers. We're talking about that they're going to beat New Orleans 41-17.
So because Devontae Adams is hurt, who do you see stepping up? Like which receiver do you see stepping up and having the biggest night?
Lazard. Because Lazard is a very underrated wide receiver.
He is.
I was trying to go off on this last night, and Freddie wasn't having it because I was disrespecting Aaron Rodgers. I don't even want to get into that conversation again. All I'm saying is he can make anyone look good on any night. I know that. I've never doubted Rodgers' skills. And so every time I come out and say, oh, he had a pedestrian game. Last week he had a pedestrian game, 240 yards and 2 touchdowns. Any quarterback in the NFL can do that. That's my only point. But this week is not going to be that way because he's playing a team that can't stop him. So, yes, he's going to have a great game this week.
Okay, so we're looking at that, though, but we're also looking at a Saints team that when it comes to the running side, they actually haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher in I think it's 24 games. Does that concern you with Aaron Jones at all or not?
No, because again, like Freddie pointed out, and you might have to, and it's a valid point, but yes, with Rodgers throwing the ball, it opens up the running game. Mm-hmm. I get that, but you stop the running game. How is Green Bay going to beat you?
Yeah, because
of Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Jones is a flat-out beast. He does everything.
So what they're going to do is instead of running it, they're going to realize they can't run it after the halfway through the second quarter. They're going to realize we're not running the ball. So they're going to bring in a guy like Tyler Ervin into the backfield or Jamal Williams or A.J. Dillon. Doesn't matter which one you put back there. You're going to start splitting Aaron Jones out as a receiver. And then he's going to beat you as a receiver.
Well, yeah, because he can. He can beat you on the ground, and he can beat you as a receiver.
That's my point. That's part of the Aaron Rodgers thing. That you got Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. They're all so cerebral. They can beat you in many ways. That's what I'm saying. Would you even
put Drew Brees in that category too?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, I should have, and I apologize for that. No disrespect to Drew Brees, but yes, they're all very cerebral, and that's how they can beat you. And they're going to figure that out. They're going to figure that out halfway through the second quarter, and it's good. The first quarter, they're going to struggle. They're going to try to run the ball and figure out halfway through the second quarter they can't. And they're going to come out and start lining Aaron Jones up at receiver, and then he's going to beat you that way. So,
So, yes, I do have Green Bay in this game too, but I think it's going to be a little bit closer, and that is only because we don't have Devontae, but they don't have Michael Thomas. But I do think we do still end up winning this game, but I've got it pegged at 30-20. But I do have us winning this game. If we score 40, fantastic, because that would be 3 straight weeks of 40-plus points.
And I could say I could have been a little off just because I was a little peeved and I wanted to get that off my chest, but yeah, that's fine.
No, that's fine. Okay, so is there anything else that you need to talk about or mention before we call it a show?
No, because we'll cover the Monday night game on Monday night. But
Yeah.
I just I don't know. I don't know what else to say. It's going to be a good morning of football and a good Sunday night of football. In the afternoon, it's going to suck. Period.
So just really quick before we jump off, if you had to take a guess right now, is who's going to be your breakout player this weekend? Who's it going to be?
Oh man. I guess if I had to pick anyone, I would say to watch out for Jonathan Taylor in Indianapolis. They're playing a not very good team, and he's going to ball this weekend. So.
He's going to have himself a game. He is.
Yeah, that's what I'll say. Jonathan Taylor would be my pick.
All right, well, that's pretty much all we have for the night, but I hope everybody enjoyed it. And so always tune in on Saturdays because our Saturday shows are always college and NFL. That's all we talk about on Saturdays. Wednesday, if you want to listen to everything else, we're there. We're baseball, baseball, basketball, everything.
That's the other thing we forgot to mention, that we will not be on Friday nights starting next week. We were kind of filling in a time slot that we kind of repeated some things or did some things that we normally do on Saturday. So we'll be Wednesdays and Saturdays starting next week. We will also be with you Monday night to cover the Monday night games.
Yep. So stay tuned for that.
But if I'm not wrong, Big Shaw's going to start joining us next week, right?
Correct. He will be on our Wednesday and Saturday shows. But
And mess around to be with us on Monday.
Not this week.
I know not this week, but he's normally with us on Mondays.
Yes. This week it'll just be us two.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So thanks everybody for watching. I hope everybody enjoyed, and you guys have a great night. And we will see you guys on Monday night.
We're out.